This book has the power to completely change your life. Seriously, I want you to imagine waking up tomorrow morning, grabbing your phone, and reading a highly stressful email. Or maybe you're walking into a really difficult conversation. Normally, your heart would be racing, right? Your mind would be spiraling into total chaos. But instead, you feel this absolute unshakable calm. You're completely in control. Well, today, in this explainer, we're diving deep into the globally famous book, Stop Letting Everything Affect You, by Daniel Chidiac. And look, this isn't just a basic summary. We're going on a cinematic journey straight into the architecture of your own mind. We're going to decode the exact psychological tools that can rescue your focus, protect your peace, and literally help you reclaim your life. All right, let's get into this.
So I really need to ask you something, and I want you to be brutally honest with yourself. Are you a prisoner to your own thoughts? We all know that exhausting, suffocating heaviness, don't we? It's the pain of overthinking every single tiny interaction. It's the sheer burnout of chronic people-pleasing, just constantly absorbing everybody else's emotional chaos until you've got absolutely zero energy left for yourself. It feels like you're carrying the weight of the entire world on your shoulders. And the absolute worst part? You feel like you literally can't turn it off. But what if I told you that emotional chaos is not a life sentence? It's actually just a pattern. And the beautiful thing about patterns, they can be broken. To really ground this in reality, let's talk about Alex. Alex is your typical modern professional. Super driven, hardworking, balancing a really demanding job with some big personal goals. But then, completely out of nowhere, the company announces sudden layoffs. And boom, Alex's world is turned upside down. Devastating, right? For most of us, an event like that is the ultimate trigger. It sends us spiraling straight into anxiety, victimhood, and despair. But Alex decided to take a totally different path. Alex turned to a philosophy he'd heard a lot about but had never truly put into practice: Stoicism. And this philosophy perfectly highlights the exact mindset shift Alex used. The great Roman emperor Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Our life is what our thoughts make it." Think about that for a second. Alex couldn't change the fact that the layoff happened, right? That external event was locked in. It was done. But he realized he could change his internal response to it. So instead of seeing this as some massive career-ending disaster, he actively chose to view it as a forced opportunity to explore new paths. Now, obviously, this didn't change the world outside of him, but it instantly transformed his world inside. It turned crippling anxiety into a really sharp sense of anticipation. Now, what Alex experienced actually has a formal name in modern psychology. It's a foundational concept developed by Julian Rotter way back in the 1950s, and it's called the locus of control. Basically, it's your core belief about who is actually holding the pen and writing your story. Do you believe your destiny is controlled by you? That's an internal locus. Or do you believe you're just a victim of fate, or luck, or the powerful people around you? That's an external locus. Daniel Chidiac's entire book rests on this one massive foundation. If we want to be free, we have to fundamentally shift from helplessness to personal responsibility.
The best way to visualize this is like a slider or a continuum. Way over on one end, you have the external locus of control, where everything you do is dictated by fate, luck, or just whatever circumstances surround you. Then, way over on the other end, you have the internal locus of control, where your life is strictly guided by your own personal decisions and effort. And you know what? The psychological research on this is crystal clear. Moving yourself toward that internal locus is absolutely the golden key to becoming psychologically healthy, incredibly resilient, and ultimately successful. It's all about focusing your precious, limited energy strictly on what you can actually influence.
Okay, so how do we practically make that shift when our minds are racing at 1,000,000 miles an hour? Chidiac gives us this brilliant, rapid-fire, 3-step process to just shatter those cognitive distortions, like when we start catastrophizing. Step 1, label the pattern. Literally just noticing it and calling it out creates mental distance. Step 2, challenge the story. Ask yourself, wait, what hard evidence actually supports this terrible thought I'm having? What else could possibly be true? And step 3, choose an action. Just one small, decisive action. This is the magic step. It breaks you completely out of that paralyzing "why is this happening to me" loop and catapults you right into "what now" momentum.
But here is where things get incredibly deep. Sometimes, the thing that's actually stopping us isn't some external anxiety at all. It's us. What if your self-sabotage is actually just a protective strategy that went totally wrong? Just let that sink in for a second. Chidiac exposes a really profound truth here. Things like chronic procrastination, crippling perfectionism, or always avoiding conflict, they are often driven by our own subconscious fear of success, or honestly, just our weird loyalty to a familiar discomfort. We literally sabotage ourselves just to stay in the emotional baseline we're used to, even if that baseline is making us absolutely miserable.
So the big question is, how do we unmask and finally defeat this self-sabotage?
Well, first, you have to pinpoint your specific trigger. Next, carefully note the avoidance behavior you instantly jump to. Like, do you start doom scrolling on your phone? Do you suddenly decide the kitchen needs deep cleaning right when you should be working? Once you know that, design what's called a smallest viable win. Make the very next step so ridiculously tiny that you literally cannot fail. And finally, implement friction design. This is huge. Make your desired actions incredibly easy, like putting your gym clothes right next to your bed, and make your bad habits highly, highly inconvenient. You purposefully hack your physical environment so your environment ends up managing your mind.
Section 1. Master your nervous system. Body first, mind second. Now we're pivoting to a realization that is an absolute game changer. Emotional chaos isn't just some mental flaw or weakness. It is a very real physiological event. Your heart races, your palms get sweaty, your chest tightens up. That means we have to approach this body first, mind second. You simply cannot outthink a panicked nervous system. The cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectical behavior therapy tools we're about to jump into are literally your weapons for reclaiming your mind by first calming your body. And because we have to tackle the body first, we start with a super simple linguistic shift. Listen to the difference here. I am angry versus I notice anger. When you say, I am angry, you are fusing your entire core identity with a temporary, fleeting emotion. But when you say, I notice anger, you instantly create a wedge of space between the emotion and who you actually are. This brilliant little shift changes everything. It proves that you are the vast sky and the emotion is just the passing cloud. It allows you to respond rationally instead of just reacting blindly.
Which brings us to CBT weapon number 1, semantic satiation. I know, it sounds like some highly complicated psychological jargon, but it's actually an incredibly interactive, borderline magical tool. It is designed to literally wear down the distressing meaning behind your negative thoughts. It's all based on the simple idea that words only hold the emotional power that we give them, and through pure repetitive force, we can strip that power away entirely.
I actually want you to try this with me right now. Let's say you have a deeply distressing thought that haunts you, something like, I am a creep, or I am a failure. Notice that horrible, heavy feeling in your stomach when you even think it. Now, the exercise is to say those exact words continuously, out loud, without pausing, for 2 whole minutes. I am a creep, I am a creep, I am a creep. Do you know what happens? Very quickly, the actual physical structure of the words begins to just break down in your mouth. It starts to sound like totally meaningless, goofy gibberish. Like the Think CBT workbook points out, I am a creep starts to sound like Pi am a cree. It's ridiculous. You completely detach the emotional pain from the physical sound of the word.
And that beautifully illustrates our next tool, the speed up, slow down technique. The actual pace of your internal language dictates its emotional impact. If you have a harsh, negative automatic thought, try repeating it in your head at 4 times the normal speed. Make it sound like some fast-forwarded, high-pitched cartoon character. Then try the opposite. Say it at 1/4 speed, slowly dragging out every single syllable, in a deep, booming voice. By completely messing with the pace and the intention behind the thought, you destroy the anxiety it was trying to cause. You suddenly realize it's all just sound. It's not reality.
So pause and ask yourself right now, where are your thoughts actually living on the time traveler's log? Are your current thoughts dwelling way back in the past, obsessing over some loss or mistake? Are they projecting way out into the future, constantly anticipating some invisible threat? Or are they right here, grounded in the present? You see, anxiety almost always lives in the future, depression usually lives in the past. Vitality, power, and actual control, they only exist right now, in the present moment. By physically visualizing this timeline in your head, you can catch your mind playing time traveler and actively drag your attention kicking and screaming back to the here and now.
But what if you're spiraling so hard you can't just drag your mind back? Well, that's when you need immediate physiological interventions, circuit breakers. These are incredibly practical DBT skills you can deploy anywhere, anytime. The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 sensory countdown, where you literally name 5 things you see, 4 you can touch, 3 you hear, 2 you smell, and 1 you taste. It literally forces your brain to process immediate physical reality. Then there's extended exhale breathing, which acts as a direct biological signal telling your nervous system that you are safe. There's the DBT half-smile technique, just slightly turning up the corners of your mouth, which actually tricks your brain into a state of acceptance. And if you are in extreme distress, shock your nervous system. Squeeze a piece of ice in your hand or crush a rubber ball as hard as you can. Body first, mind second.
All right, once we've finally mastered our own internal chaos, we have to look outward, to our relationships with others. And right here, we absolutely must draw a powerful emotional line in the sand. Empathy versus enmeshment. Empathy is a beautiful thing. It's caring for someone, understanding their deep pain, and supporting them. But enmeshment is dangerously outsourcing your own self-worth to other people's moods. It's when you literally cannot be happy unless they are happy. If you find yourself letting everything affect you, it's highly, highly likely you have crossed that line from healthy empathy straight into toxic enmeshment.
So how do we fix a pattern like that? Chidiac drops this absolute gem of a guiding principle. Use compassionate detachment to restore reciprocity. Think about that. You can love someone incredibly deeply from a distance. You can establish firm boundaries, not because you're selfish, but as a vital, necessary ethic of self-protection. Let's be real, you cannot pour from an empty cup. Compassionate detachment means you finally stop trying to fix everyone, you stop absorbing their negativity like a sponge, and you let them take responsibility for their own lives, while you finally take responsibility for yours.
Let's make this super practical, though. How do you actually set these boundaries without feeling crushing, overwhelming guilt? First, set response windows. You do not have to reply to that text or that email within 30 seconds. Reclaim your time. Second, use short, pre-prepared scripts to decline requests. Say something like, "I'd love to help, but I just don't have the bandwidth right now." That's it. No over-explaining, no apologizing. And third, focus on your inputs, not the outcomes. Measure your success purely by the fact that you held your boundary, not by how the other person reacted to it. Because at the end of the day, their reaction is completely 100% out of your control.
Section 2. Your new emotional identity. Moving from trying to doing. And this brings us to the final and undoubtedly the most crucial part of this entire explainer. We are talking about cementing all of this newfound strength into your permanent emotional identity. It's about making the massive leap from someone who is trying not to let things affect them to someone who simply does not let things affect them. It's just who you are now. You have to anchor your daily behavior to an identity rooted in deep, unshakable values rather than fluctuating feelings and the need for external validation. To build that, you need your daily fortitude toolkit. Start a daily gratitude journal to literally force your brain to scan for the positive instead of always hunting for a threat. Run a control sphere analysis on every single problem you face, list what you can control, and ruthlessly discard what you can't. Practice future self-journaling so you make decisions aligned with the badass you want to become, and finally, engage in meaningful discomfort exposures. Deliberately do hard things in controlled doses. Take a freezing cold shower. Initiate that incredibly tough conversation. Repeated, value-aligned actions generate the undeniable evidence that fundamentally rewires who you are.
So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with one final, profound question. What's it going to be? Will you stay in that exhausting prison of overthinking, constantly getting battered around by everyone else's emotional storms? Or will you take the tools we talked about today, master your nervous system, set those ironclad boundaries, and build the fortitude to walk free today? The choice, your locus of control, is entirely in your hands right now. If this explainer shifted your perspective and actually gave you the weapons to rescue your mind, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who really needs to hear it today. Keep building your fortitude, and I will see you in the next one.